Bryan Christiansen from No Quarter. Welcome to Australian Musician.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Greg.
Bryan, do you recall hearing Led Zeppelin for the first time, either on the radio or someone playing it to you?
I do, absolutely. I'll never forget, I heard When the Levee Breaks. I was around 7 or 8 years old. My brother was playing it in his room, and I just remember the drums just, spoke to me. Later, I started getting into guitar, and it was years later. And then he put on a tune called Heartbreaker. And I remember them stopping in the middle of the song and hearing that solo, and that was it for me. I was done. I was like, they're the band, and just hooked on them from that point onward.
Did you have a favorite album back then?
I'd have to say it's between Led Zeppelin 2 and Led Zeppelin 4 at the time. There's just a lot of powerful stuff on there.
Yeah. This project No Quarter has been going on for quite a while now. How long did it take to find the right guys?
Oh, wow. It's amazing. I posted ads everywhere when I came up with the whole concept and just started auditioning. And, it was always good from day one, finding the right guys. But each guy really respected I was very fortunate because everyone always respected their character. So my John Paul Jones really respected his character. And there was a point years ago where he's like, I can't do this anymore because of my family. And he goes, but I'm going to help you find the next guy. And so we would always try to do, so every time we would have a new person would come in, it was at least as good or sometimes even better because they knew more about their character. Yeah. And as we became more well-known, then people started getting drawn to it. And it's hard to find, like a Robert Plant that sounds like Robert Plant. I'm very fortunate to have found him in August. He's amazing. To play a drummer to play like Nathan, like John Bonham is mind-blowing. And then the secret behind Zeppelin to me is John Paul Jones, because he plays multiple instruments. To find one musician that can play the guitar, the mandolin, the bass, and the keyboards, that gets very rare, you know.
So the way you speak, you approach the show more like a theatre production, in that you're playing characters and you're wearing costumes. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. We're trying to as close as we can recreate what it would have been like to have seen Led Zeppelin live and in concert. And we do studio, hits too. So everybody enjoys, because they're casual Zeppelin fans. They'll hear a song on the radio and they'll come out just to hear maybe that song, like Immigrant Song. It was in the new Thor movie, Thor Ragnarok. It was in it twice, actually. So, it's definitely the fan base for a song like that. But then there's other fans that are diehard fans that want to hear the deep cuts. So something live out of like The Song Remains the Same will pull out and play. So it's that balance is, for both sides.
Yeah. I gather the movie, The Song Remains the Same, had quite an effect on you as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. That's safe to say. It changed me. I was like, this is what I really want to do. And we focused on that film because number one, that's it's a platinum selling album, of course, but it's also the cult film of Led Zeppelin. That's like right up there with Rocky Horror Picture Show. Everybody's seen that, in midnight movies in America, it's always playing, and it's probably still playing somewhere. It's crazy. Yeah. So go ahead.
Your manager, Dennis DAmico, is a heavy hitter in the music business. Did you approach him or did he find you?
I was through a contact, a friend of mine. He was talking about him, and I'm like, well, let's talk to him. So I ended up approaching him. And I just said, I want you to manage my band. And he goes, do you know who I am? I go, yeah, I know who you are. And I want to fly you out to the West Coast, to Seattle. We're having a concert. And I want you to take a look at our band. And if you like it, I want you to be our manager. And he goes, okay, you know what? I happen to have stuff going on the East Coast. And if you can route me there, if you help me get there, I'll check you guys out. And he was, he came out and it was the night our monitor systems went out on stage, of course. It was the only time. And so we all just kind of huddled together as a band and just rocked. And we were playing in an arena called the Showware Arena. And he actually came down and just says, my God, that's pretty impressive to be able to pull it off with all the technical problems going down. I'm impressed. Took us out to dinner later on that night and told us his pedigree of people he's worked with, and one of them was Paul McCartney. So it's quite humbling when you think about it. Yeah, he's a regular guy, just like everybody else, but at the same time, he's one of the guys that knows everybody else too. Yeah.
How does Dennis stack up against Zeppelin's Peter Grant?
He's not near as there's no machine guns. I don't think he's ever beaten anybody up, as to my knowledge, thankfully. He's very soft-spoken guy, very, very authoritative with, he's just got a different approach. He's very, very kind person, really wins you over with respect instead of fear, Yeah, Peter Grant was a classic.
Have you seen many other Zeppelin tribute acts? Have you seen Jason Bonham's show?
I did. I caught part of his show. I saw a part of it on YouTube, and I really liked it. I think the part for me was when he played Moby Dick, and they had an image of his father behind him playing. And I mean, that hit me right there, man, because, it's a point he's playing, and he's admitting even to himself that he's not John Bonham, because he's going as far as he can on the drum solo, and then he just stops and holds the sticks and looks up, and his dad is just going off on the drums behind him, carrying it. And it was really awesome. I loved it. I mean, that was a moment. I've seen other bands. There was a band called Zepp Boys in Australia. I saw them on YouTube. And, I like them. I like any band that's doing Zeppelin, I have respect for, because I know how challenging it is to be a musician playing Led Zeppelin.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Page or Plant or John Paul Jones perform?
I have. I've seen Page and Plant perform at the Gorge in Washington State, and he lit into No Quarter, and just I mean, he's always been great, but there was just something about that mood or whatever was happening, and he just went off on the solo, and everybody just gave him a standing ovation, and it impacted me so much that I was trying to think of the name for the band, and I'm like, I'm going to call it No Quarter. So that was it.
Zeppelin's offstage behaviour was quite antisocial at times, especially towards music journalists. My friend Stephen Rosen had a very frightening flight on their plane once, which you may have read about. But do you switch off from your characters once you leave the stage?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're not. It's like action just before we get on, and we're in character. And the minute we walk off, and it's like, and cut, and we're just, whatever, talking to anybody, and just totally not us. I'm just not anything like Jimmy Page off stage. I try to do as much as I can on stage, and when I'm off, I'm just doing my own thing.
Yeah.
So,
well, what are some of the more memorable performances of No Quarter for you?
Oh wow. I would say some of them have been opening for, or in on the stage sharing the bill with some of the bands that I listened to when I was a kid, like Steppenwolf or Peter Frampton, or Nazareth was a great concert. We shared the stage with them, and I remember afterwards they invited us back to their green room. And they were saying, okay, where's Jimmy Page? And the bass player just ran up and just did a bear hug on me and picked me up off the ground. And he's like, man, I know him. I am friends with Jimmy Page. And he goes, we thought at some point, we thought someone was pulling his trick on us, and that you guys were Zeppelin, and we were going to kill the promoter for having Zeppelin open up for us, because, and they were just so cool to us. And the band that really, influenced me as a kid in seeing these guys, Kansas was another one, watching them play, just, watching Tesla was another band. I mean, a lot of bands that we got to see. Eddie Money was great also. You meet them and you see them in a different light, that they're just really great people. They're just doing what they love doing.
Yeah.
So
how many songs do you think you've got prepared of Led Zeppelin?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I would say probably 75 to 85% of their music we either know collectively or could easily pull off. and put it in. As we've been getting together, it's weird because we'll get together and rehearse on stuff, and then all of a sudden someone will just come, but what about this one? And they'll like, custard pie, yeah. And we just start playing it, or lemon song, or when the levee breaks, or whatever. And they all know it. They all have it down. Or if they don't know it, they're willing to at least try it and then say, yeah, this sounds good. I'll have it down next week. And then they do, so it's great.
Yeah. How do you stay enthusiastic about playing Stairway to Heaven time after time?
It's one of those songs where, to me, it's just timeless. I don't get sick of playing it, but however, if I'm driving along and it comes on, I do switch channel because I've heard it too much. But when I'm playing it, I'm like, okay, this is a night, it's the night of doing it, doing it the way Zeppelin would do it. So I just focus on my character, and I actually enjoy it. I enjoy playing Stairway to Heaven night after night. There's nothing wrong with that. But I do not listen to it when it comes on the radio. I will confess, I will flip that channel faster than anyone.
It's one thing to get Jimmy Page's licks down, but what about the tone? How much time have you spent getting the right amps and the combination pedals?
Great question. I lucked out on the tone because I was doing a recording session, and the guy was making an album. He wanted me to play lead for him, and he goes, "Well, try this other amp." And so this amp was in an ISO booth, and I'm like, "Man, I've never heard an amp like this. This thing got so much guts to it. What is this amp?" And it just had punch. And he goes, "Oh, it's a Supro." And I just lit up. I go, "Oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. I didn't even think they had any of these over here." He goes, "Yeah, I picked it up." And so I went in and looked at it, and it's a Supro Thunderbolt. And basically, when Jimmy did recordings with Zeppelin, he played mostly through a small Supro amp. And so I said, this is the amp he used. So, and then I was telling him how he would lay out the tones. I hit a little bit of distortion on it, and then a wah pedal, and I started playing a whole lot of love lead, and the tone is just, it's like it's right there. It's dead on. Yeah. So I really lucked out on that, finding early a Supro.
Jimmy has many famous guitars. How many do you take out for this show, and what are they?
I have the Cherry Gibson double neck, the red double neck. I have that. I have the 1971 Sunburst Les Paul. I have the Dane Electro, the black and white Dane Electro that he uses on Cashmere. I also have a Fender Telecaster that I stripped down to the wood, and then I painted the dragon on it that matched what he had when Jeff Beck gave him the guitar back in the day in the Yardbirds, and then Jimmy painted the dragon on his. Ironically, I didn't know he painted it. I thought somebody painted it for him. So it's kind of cool that when I got finishing the touches on it and I looked up and Googled it, and Jimmy is the one who actually painted his too. So I'm like, character share, it's cool.
Did you play an acoustic in the show?
Yes, I have a Martin here. I've got an acoustic that's in Australia that we're working with. I believe it's a Taylor, but anyway, I do. When we play, like going to California or Bron Your Stomp or That's the Way or whatever we're going to play, I'll play an acoustic on that.
Yeah. Outside of No Quarter, do you have other music projects that you're involved with?
I do, actually. I completely went out of character and switched to bass guitar. And I've put together a tribute to the band called Yes. And the band's called Yes Today. And I just did the same thing as I did with No Quarter. Found the right musicians that do the part, sound the part, and play the part right on the money. And we're just piecing it together right now. We're getting ready to go record. And probably say next year, we'll probably be ready to start launching that. So when No Quarter doesn't tour, I have another project I can work on.
Yeah. Tribute bands are often derided by some people, but with the recent passing of a lot of musicians, such as the drummer from Yes,
Alan White.
Yeah, it's quite important to keep that legacy going, isn't it?
I think so. I think there's nothing wrong with honoring, the musicians that have shaped our culture, because pretty much, I always love seeing a good Beatles tribute band. Because I love being taken back to that great era, and so for me, there's a great Jimi Hendrix tribute, person named Randy Hansen. He does an amazing job of Jimi Hendrix, And he's a dear friend and just an inspiration to me. He was one who really inspired me to carry on and do Jimmy Page and to dial it in, because he did it for arguably the greatest guitarist ever alive was probably Jimi Hendrix, and this guy's nailed it, and it was neat. So when I see bands, some bands don't like it. I don't know why. If I was in a band and had my day, and another band is honoring what I've done with my work, I would be really thrilled myself. I'd be thrilled that someone's keeping the flame going. That's how I look at it. Because we'll never get to see Led Zeppelin. They're done. I mean, they're not going to get back together ever. And it's too bad. I would love to have seen them. I mean, the O2 Arena was an amazing concert reunion with Jason on the drums. That was phenomenal. But Robert Plant is adamant he's not going to do it. And it'll never be what it once was, And so it's neat to see others go out and keep it going. And I have a lot of respect for the bands that do that.
Yeah, you've brought the show to Australia before. You'll be here end of June and all through July. What are your memories of previous Australian tours?
Well, the last one, the best one was the last one for me, because I met my wife at the Bridge Hotel in Sydney. She was there, and we ended up going out for a coffee, and the next thing you know, we're married. Pretty much. So I mean, I love it. I mean, that was my favorite tour, obviously, but first time coming to Australia was great. It was kind of funny because we couldn't find kangaroos. For some reason, we never found them, and for like 3 weeks we've been looking, and we never found one. I knew they were in Australia somewhere, but like they were just constantly hiding from us. And finally, I started doing Facebook posts like day 21, no sightings yet, and people are just going, have you thought one? And all of a sudden, like the last day we were there, we were at the hotel, and there's a whole herd of them. And when we finally saw the real ones, and I'm like, wow, man. So that was funny. So.
Yeah. As I said, you're here late June all through July. We look forward to seeing you down here, and thanks for joining us, Bryan.
Thank you so much, Greg. Take care.